I'm Anna Callahan. I'm a junior on the women's lacrosse team, and I am majoring in political science.
I'm Lexi. I'm a junior on the women's lacrosse team, and I'm majoring in visual arts and minoring in global health.
I'm Kat. I was a member of the women's lacrosse team. I graduated undergrad in 2018 and then went on to get my master's at the Fuqua School of Business in 2019. So we'll just say I'm a business major.
I'm Jake. I'm a junior on the football team. I'm an economics major.
I'm Sean. I'm the director of behavioral health for Duke Athletics, and I will just be our moderator for the evening. So I guess I'll go ahead and get us kicked off. I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking tonight about mental health, specifically in collegiate athletics. But just to kind of get us started, what were some of your impressions of like mental health and how that played out before you got here?
So for me, my perception of mental health was almost non-existent. I believe where I grew up, we didn't talk about mental health because it was very stigmatized, especially in athletics.
I would say my experience was similar to Anna's. I did not talk about mental health in that capacity before. At least we never named it. Like, I know my mom, like, she was very emotional, so like we talked about her feelings and stuff, I guess, but like more so just like family stuff. But like overall, we did not talk about emotions with sports. If we did, it was to show no emotion. That's like a big thing. Like, don't let them show that they're getting to you. You have to be mentally strong, which means like don't show anything. Like, you can't show that you're frustrated. Don't cry. Like, kind of keep it all bottled up.
So depression runs in genetics on both sides of my family, and I've had some family members directly kind of deal with depression, anxiety, but it was never openly discussed. It was never openly discussed until I had my own struggles with mental health and kind of like the man behind the curtain emerged. And all of a sudden it was, well, we're not surprised because it does run in our family. And I was like, why at 21 am I just now hearing about this?
Yeah, I think you guys touched on the majority of the big ones that we hear, especially from freshmen coming in, of anything from that imposter syndrome of like, do I belong here, to the homesickness, to the am I good enough, both academically and athletically. Has that stuff shifted for you guys over time? The things that, are the stressors in your life as you go through your college career and Kat, as you kind of completed your college career?
Yeah, I think my senior year, I kind of realized, to put it in simple terms, we're throwing around a yellow ball, right? It's like a small yellow ball, and it like feels like it's dictating everything in your life. But once you kind of put it in perspective that this is something that you wind up doing because you have a passion for it and it's fun and it's supposed to bring joy. It's not supposed to be like pulling teeth every time you step on the field, and kind of winding back those layers and figuring out, why am I really here? What at the core is this bringing me? That was kind of where I learned to like let go of a lot of, those unknowns and those anxieties. And I think completing my career, I look back and there were so many high highs, there were so many low lows, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I wouldn't do it differently. But I definitely don't think people realize all the different dimensions that student athletes have to go through and have to live through and face to face every day.
For me, I'm definitely still working to get to the point where Kat was at the end of her Duke career, and just being able to say, like, look, Jake, all you're doing is throwing around a little brown football, like just the same as you were doing when you were 6 years old. But that process for me is very hard to work through, just because I unfortunately tie myself into my performance as a football player so much. I wish I didn't. I mean, sometimes it's a blessing. Most times it's a curse. But, I have come light years from my freshman year where, a bad practice on Tuesday would have, ultimately ruined my week. And about that practice on Tuesday, that, 5-minute period where I dropped 2 footballs, and that would just kill the rest of my week. And now I'm kind of able to reset, and remind myself, Jake, you're doing this thing for fun. You're doing this because you love it. And you're doing this, you're incredibly, incredibly lucky to come out here and play this game with your best friends. And I know that sounds cliche, but, that's for me something that I need to continuously just tell myself as I'm on the field. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And I think kind of adding to Jake's point, I mean, Sean could tell you, or Dr. Zeppelin could tell you, my freshman year, I was so afraid to make a mistake that it almost created mistakes before they were even made. So I would think so much like, oh my gosh, catch the ball, don't drop it. And then I would just drop it. Because if you think about it so much, what you don't want to happen is just going to happen. And I think it took a lot of self-reflection and a lot of time and a lot of work within myself when I went home after freshman year, just to go back to what I was in high school and go back to that confidence that I had, the chip on my shoulder, just the drive and the passion that I had for lacrosse. And I came back my sophomore year and I was like, like kind of what Jake said, I'm literally throwing around a tiny little yellow ball for fun with my friends. Why am I so worried about catching it? Just do what you're good at, do your job, and everything's going to fall into place. And I was really fortunate to have such a supportive team, such a, supportive coaching staff, such a supportive family and friends that I was really able to kind of come out of that rut. And I'm really, really thankful that I did as soon as I did, because if I didn't go home sophomore year with that, or freshman year with that mindset, I wouldn't nearly be in the spot that I am right now.
I've talked to Anna about this a bunch, like where I started freshman year and like where I am now in terms of like how I feel with my team is like astronomically like improved. It's better, it's different. And that came from me honestly talking about my past and like being vulnerable. And this is like we're talking about how when you asked that first question, like did we talk about, mental health, mental illness, anxiety, any of those natural things that come with sports and life. I never talked about it before. So then to try and explain to a team of 30-something girls, like why I was acting the way I was, like why I was apprehensive or why I felt the way I felt was like extremely difficult. But I'm so happy that I did, because now like I can explain stuff and they understand it. And me and my team, some girls more than others have become so close because I was vulnerable and because I explained like what I was dealing with, like where I was coming from. But I think like there's always room for improvement and like always room for more growth in terms of like dealing with mental health and stuff like that. So I'm happy with where I am now, and like I'm happy that I have grown, but there's like always way more that I could be doing. And that's like kind of how I'm going to look at like the rest of my 1, maybe 2 years here.
From my perspective, I think just those answers to those questions are some of the most important things we can get out of tonight. Less so now, but definitely when I first started doing this job, and people would ask me, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a sports psychologist. And, I work with athletes. And I would often get some sort of response of like, well, they're playing a game. What do they have to be stressed about? Or what do they have to be sad about? Like, because I think, people from the outside, that aren't around athletics will watch you guys play these games and it looks so fun. And, on a Saturday, like, we get to see the finished product. And I don't think people always really understand kind of the day-to-day, what goes on and how much, these things mean to you guys. So I appreciate you, kind of sharing those and also kind of talking about how you shift out of that.